What's going on, guys? So if any of you saw the last YouTube short that I posted, which I will put up top, this ridiculousness needs some explaining. So what happened to the RS? Apparently, to make it simple and sweet, the inner tie rod completely walked out from the driver's side portion of the steering assembly. So the steering gear, where your tie rod connects into, which controls which way your wheels turn, that had just disconnected. The threads weren't completely shot, but they were damaged. And there was some mild stripping of the threads inside of the tie rod portion, or inside the gear portion where the tie rod threads into. So I looked around. This is not a common thing. So I believe that what may have happened was whomever replaced the tie rods before did not use thread locker. Ford suggests that you use thread locker when putting in new inner tie rods, because there is a spacer on the inside, which I will show you guys once we get into it. There's a plastic spacer, especially on the STs and the RSs, that stops the inner tie rod knuckle from hitting up against that the seal and the assembly from what I can tell when you go full lock. So I'm assuming that spacer, given enough, turning to lock to either back up or go forward or whatever, could cause some potential walking of the component, which is exactly what happened. So I'm not exactly thrilled about it, but give me a second and I will show you what I did to fix this issue. Now keep in mind, I was still able to see some threading. So this is why I attempted this fix. I was very, very careful in what I did. And you had to make sure that you order the right part. And I'm going to show you how to order the right part right now. Okay, so here is what I did to figure out what I needed in order to get the right tools to at least help me repair the inner tie rod threading area. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need yourself a dial caliper. I got a digital one because it's much more accurate than kind of eyeballing it. And I'm going to turn this on. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the inner tie rod. So if you look right here, I repaired those threads as best as I could, but you can still see that they're pretty damaged. There are parts where the thread is just gone. So the high spots are just completely gone. You can see where it got chewed up from being walked out. So right there, over here on the lower part. And then the lower piece where the thread entrance is, that kind of got mashed up. So what I did was I took my caliper and I closed it on the threads. So that shows me 13.6 millimeters. So make sure you're set to millimeters and not to inches. Okay. So 13.7 millimeters. So basically that tells me that I need a 14 millimeter bolt size or threading size. All right. So that size doesn't come from where the depth of the threads, but from the actual where the threads, the height of them on both sides. It works same way for if you're looking for a replacement bolt. The next part is I got these gauges. These are thread pitch gauges. So you just take these and then you find the right one. Since it's a bigger component, I started with the larger size. And I went I just kind of assumed it was a 1.5, and it happened to be right. So what you're looking for is when you put this inside, for the teeth that for the threads that are left, you're looking for this to sit inside, and you don't want any play. It should be nice and stiff and firm. Okay, so you sit it in there, it should sit all the way down, and it should grab it. All right, so this wound up being a 1.5 thread pitch. Okay, so I'm not sure how well you can see that, but basically what that winds up totaling out to is an M14, okay, by 1.5. So 14 millimeter by 1.5, which led me to get this. What this is a tap and die. So this tap and die set is a separate one that does not come with your standard tap and die set because it's larger. So this is an M14 by 1.5 hardened steel. Let's see. Let me see. Can you see that? Can you see? All right. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but take my word for it. So that's the tap. And then this is the die. Okay. So again, so right there shows you M14. There it goes. M14 tap and die by 1.5. Okay, so that's what that led me to do. So once I got this, so mind you, so just so you know, I got this off of Amazon. I was not able to find it on eBay, at least not where I could get it within a couple of days. So I wound up going through Amazon. So what I did was to make sure that this was indeed the right size. I took the die and I placed it on top of the inner tie rod threads, and then I just slowly, nice and easy, started to hand thread it. And then there was a little bit of resistance at first, obviously, because you have to keep in mind the threads were damaged and mushed. So there was a little bit of resistance, and I spun it. But as you can see, I'm only using the tips of my fingers, and this is threading down nice and smooth all the way till it bottoms out. See, so there you go. And now I do the same thing coming backwards. Now, as you do this, there will be some metal chunks that get created, some metal flaking. I was not able to find any cutting grease, but you can use WD-40 just as well, okay, as a lubricant and cutting agent. So that will allow it to move just as well. I have seen like people say like anise grease or even liquid wrench or something like that. I'd rather not use that because those tend to leave a coating that reduces rust. Not that you want to allow the rust, but I don't want the slickness. I want the cleaning effect of like a WD-40, that kind of breaker feeling. I don't really need the additional coating. So since that worked on this side, I went ahead and moved forward with this onto the steering rack assembly. So the only issue that you have is that the T-handle that comes in most sets is not going to fit this. So you're going to have to come out of pocket and buy another T-handle set or a T-handle piece. Harbor Freight sells it for like $20. And that one is a ratcheting style, which will clamp on right here. And then you'll be able to ratchet it into the area that you want. All right, so keep in mind that this what I'm trying to do is basically to save like $1,250, $1,300. And that's just for parts. I don't even know how much in labor. I believe in order to do the labor, you have to drop the subframe in order to gain access to it, because it is an electronic drive-by-wire steering rack. But it does seem like it worked. I did get a little excited. I didn't record it, sorry. But I was able to get that in there. It did thread through. It did spin. It was a little bit tight, a little bit snug. You just take your time and be careful, and it should all work out. Once again, you put your WD-40 on ahead of time. I put it on the tap and as well inside of where I was trying to maneuver the tap. You probably could use a drill, but I would rather take it nice and slow and take my time. Oh, the part I was going to mention was that it towards the back end of where the tie rod threads in, it's kind of combed. So you might not be able to make it all the way through with the top of the tap. So you just need to keep going until it bottoms out. You'll know, because you won't be able to turn it anymore, and then draw it back out. As you draw it back out, same thing as a die, you're gonna have little metal shavings and pieces and whatnot that are gonna come and clean out. If you have some air, get some glasses on and just blow the pieces out. What I did was I used the end of a screwdriver with some electrical tape behind a rag to just spin and kind of pull everything out. And then I just did that a couple more times until I stopped hearing pieces fall out. So what I'm going to be doing going forward, so you'll probably see a change of clothes, is I'm going to be using this orange thread locker. So what this does is it holds like a red, but it breaks like I want to say a green. Either a green or a blue is the one that you need hand tools in order to break loose. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So I'm going to use this on the threads once I rethread the new inner tie rod, so that hopefully it'll keep that issue from happening at all again. Because, you know, it's kind of scary. I have my kids in the car, so I can only imagine what would have happened had I not found that backing out of my garage versus being on the road.
Are you too tired of the same old lunch? Are you tired of the same old cold lunch? Call 570-629-3587.
Hungry We Deliver, Anastasia speaking.
Fast, reliable delivery to your home or office. Go to hungrywedeliver.net.
Can I have your telephone number?
All right, everybody. So I am currently at the car. So I've got a couple things I want to show you. So first of all, obviously this is the tie rod. You guys should know what a tie rod, inner tie rod looks like. If you don't, here you go. This is the knuckle, all right? This basically is your ball joint. So when you go to adjust your tie rod for an alignment, they'll grab and spin at this part. And this is just a free floating ball. This is the end that on the old one was stripped. So I did test fit this and it did thread into place. A little bit tight, I'll say, but it does work. So in order to get it in, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to hand thread it. Once I've gotten it tightened down as far as I can go just by hand, I have this tool. This is an inner tie rod tool. This is a bigger version that allows you to work from outside the car. And what happens is you have different sets of these little horseshoes. So you find the one that best fits your tie rod. So you have these flat edges and it sits right over top. And then it's got these locking screws that will go through the fat part of the tube right there, there's one on each side. It'll screw through and it will set to keep this from backing off. Okay. So there's two ways you can do it. You can either hand start it and then come back in with this and then set it in place, or you can set this in place ahead of time and then use this to hand threaten it. Since I obviously had the issue of it being stripped, I'm going to hand threaten it as far as I can, just to make sure I don't cross thread anything else. And then, sorry, spider. Then I'm gonna come back and follow up with the tool in order to tighten it to tighten it all the way down. There is another version, which I will set a picture of, that you can get from like AutoZone or whatnot, which is much smaller and it's a lot more compact. But it does present some issues. You might have to like kind of tighten, loosen. It's a little bit of a pain, but to each your own. So I'm gonna first, for this car, I got my plastic spacer, so I'm gonna make sure that that's in place. These are on all STs, RSs, and even regular Focuses, although they may look different. Make sure you put this back in. So I'm gonna spin you guys around, show you what I'm doing. So I apologize right now because these are tight quarters and I gotta do what I gotta do. So here's the orange thread locker I had mentioned previously. Put a little bit on the threads. And then all right, so that threaded in nicely, tight, and it's hand tight. So now I'm gonna prepare the tool. All right, so I've got my set screws locked in place first. I got those put in place. So now so you don't have to have the set screw super tight, just tight enough to where it allows you to spin. All right, so the driver's side is in. I got a little bit scared when I was trying to torque it down, but that's only because the inner section of this kind of started slipping off. It's not the snuggest fit. It's also not really the best kit possible. I did get this off of eBay. I don't use it that much, but basically, so once I got to where it was at like max tightness, yeah, it slipped. So once it starts slipping, at least this kind that I have, it lets go of the tie rod. So what I'll do is I will link the set that I got, and then I will link some better sets, and then I will link the pretty typical tool that everybody gets from like AutoZone or like Nap or something like that. But let's move on. So since the boot is still in good shape and I've already got the clip on here, I'm going to install that. And I'm going to get a bigger zip tie. So since I don't have any large zip ties, I took 2 and I kind of twinned them up. So I have a pulling point from each end. So you're going to slide this over your tie rod. This is the one that came off the previous one. The boot's in good shape, so I'm not worried about it. And that little squeeze clamp, that little spread clamp is still on there. So if you do swap them over, make sure you either keep that clamp or you get yourself some more zip ties. So spin you around. So basically this is just going to slide over the boot. And then you have to walk it back. So I'm going to take this off first so I have some play. I'm going to walk it back. And then, all right. So that's all the way back. There's a little seat that will drop down back behind here. And then all the way in the back, there is going to be a lip, which you've got to get the rear up and over. So I'm going to climb under and get that done. I have the boot on. So now the next thing is we got to get our jam nut on. So I got that bottomed out. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to get some lubricant, some anti-seize, and I'm going to spread it all along there. All right, so anti-seize, in case you're wondering, will help when it comes to adjustment time and inhibit any type of rusting in the future. So hopefully you won't have to use any heat or extreme tools in order to make changes or do an alignment. And speaking of alignments, when I took this off, I counted how many turns it took for me to get off. So it took me approximately 25.5 turns because this will be at the bottom facing up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the new outer tie rod set up and ready to go in. So I did get this kit from Detroit Axle. Typically ships within 2 days. Or I'm sorry, it usually ships within 24 hours and you'll get it within 2 days of submitting the order, depending on when you submit the order. I have been using them for quite a long time. I either go directly to their site or I go through eBay. And they have 10-year warranty on their products. They also sell products on Amazon. So just need to tighten down this grease fitting. It doesn't have to be super tight. Just till it stops. So with these, you will have to grease it up before you put it in. So I'm gonna go grab my grease gun and I'm gonna do that right now. All right, so now that my fitting is on, I've got my grease pump, okay? Just snap it on, that's it. And then you just start squeezing. And what you're keeping an eye on, you're keeping an eye on this boot. You want, once it starts to look like it's gonna swell, that's when you stop. So you get the air pushing out of it. Some of these are even designed with little gaps at the bottom, so that once grease starts seeping out of those, that's how you know you're full. All right. So see the grease is starting to seep out? We're full. So just nice and gently just rock it. Boom, comes right off. So now we're gonna clean up any excess grease from their gun and from the tie rod. Next step, thread your outer tie rod onto your inner tie rod. So take off your castle nut. Make sure you have your cotter pin, which I do. Okay. So again, this is going to be facing upwards from the bottom. So I'm going to start off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So now that I've reached my 25th, I'll bring that jam nut up to the back of the tie rod. So now, tie rod spins towards the front of the vehicle while we maintain grip on the back. So there are little catch points right here on the tie rod as we spin on the locking nut. So that wrench is set. I'm gonna get another one to counter hold my outer tie rod. So this is my baby of choice. So that's it. You don't gotta go crazy, because as soon as you counter them, they'll jam, and then that'll be it. So now the next part is gonna be, all you gotta do is just get this into your wheel hub, and then we should be all good to go on that end. So So again, I apologize. I'm trying to get you guys the best lighting, but since I cannot get the car completely up in the air, some things may be blocked off. All right, so now I've got the tie rod in. So now what I'm gonna do is tie rod. Well, the tie rod is in and the castle nut is started. So the old one was a 16 millimeter. This one is not that. So slight bit larger. I'm going with a 17. That works. So now, so nice and easy, I'm just going to draw it up. Don't mind my head. I want to make sure that it butts all the way up against and doesn't get completely destroyed in the process. In case you're wondering what the hell I just did, I got some grease on my rotor. So I used some brake clean to clean that up. All right, so now our what is it called? Our inner and outer tie rod are set. They're in place. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the cotter pin in. So there's a hole in the top. So again, I apologize if you can't see it too well. I'm doing the best I can. While giving you guys the best line of sight. Saito? Whatever. There you go. So, this is it's in there. Bend one side one way, then one side the other way. Finito! And that is it. That is how you perform an inner and outer tie rod. Hopefully you don't have to deal with, you know what, hold on, let me turn you around. Ugh, much better. So that is how you do an inner and outer tie rod. Hopefully you don't have to deal with what I dealt with on having the inner tie rod walk out on you. Luckily, thankfully, I was able to take care of it and rethread it. So everything that I use, discounts, everything as always, I will put down in the description. Guys, go ahead and check them out. If you have any questions, concerns, please drop them down in the comment section. I'm going to go and do the other side. I'm not going to walk you through that because it's literally the exact same thing that I did on this side. The same way I put the tie rod in, you can take the tie rod out. Okay? So, you know what to do. Comment, question, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. And as always, Wrench Daily.